Hey, kind of getting into this video stuff, and I wanted to kind of make fun of myself, but also make fun of this response Sheriff Chronister made in the Creative Loafing in the letter he shared. It's just unbelievable this guy would act with this amount of unprofessionalism against a private citizen, regardless of my past status. But, and kind of double down on it, was sharing this letter from my crazy ass neighbor. So I'm going to read my response back, and I wanted to throw in a little humor with that. And because it's so funny to me anyway, this is a circus, and you know, I'm going to have some fun with it. So I got some new glasses, but I'm going to do my best acting debut, and I hope you find this entertaining, because there'll be different actors portraying the parts with my voices. So Sheriff Chronister will be none other than this guy, and my neighbor will be played by this lady, and that is about her persona. And me, for sure, who better than this guy? So yeah, I know, just add a couple pounds, but I've been told I look like this guy 8 million times, to an annoyance. But anyway, here it goes. So I'm going to start out with this voice. So Sheriff Chronister, media outlets, and whoever wants to read this or hear this, your email listed below has raised concerns not only from myself, but from many private citizens. Quite frankly, you're participating in exactly what we anticipated you would do: retaliate. An attempt to deflect the real issues, prove you have untrustworthy internal affairs section, and show that you are willing to risk public funds for your own gross misconduct. This is in line with the forthcoming civil lawsuits that will arise because of what you sent to these reporters. I'm quite sure you did not expect them to post a screenshot based upon your last line, which you thought was not part of the main body. By the way, thank you, Creative Loafing, for sharing the entire email that he didn't expect to be shared. At any rate, as I said before, this is not about me, but since you feel the need to bash a private citizen, not a political opponent, but a taxpayer, business owner, and a disabled veteran who just happens to be retired from your agency, I will respond. But I'm going to do it with humor, because again, I think this is garbage. But have you ever responded like this to any other critic, Chad? And did you actually send out a copy of the letter that has now subjected you to some serious consequences, both professionally and personally? You're still a public servant, our elected official, buddy. You are not my boss. You answer to constituents, not bash them. You attack the concerns, not the character. That being said, you have again proven your own character. So for the reader's sake, let's dissect your childish response. Remember, I provided you with a professional document and stated instances of facts, not opinion. Regardless of whether you like me or I like you, you have again embarrassed yourself and your family in the office of the sheriff. Because your response was so childish and unprofessional, I concluded some feeble attempts at comedy as I destroyed your response, and that includes the letter from my neighbor. So, just so you know, and we included this in my other page, but this is what I'm reading off of like a script, so bear with me. I'm going to do my best here. So, here's Chad. Ray, please see the following statement from Sheriff Chronister. I'm aware this letter submitted to the governor by former Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office employee James Stolzman, who served from September 1999 until his resignation in June 2018. While he did not provide a reason for his resignation. Hold on. I am a vested retiree, has chosen not to collect my pension until 55. As I am currently financially stable and as an independent business owner, I am fortunate I can leave it in FRS. A simple public records check will confirm this. Also, was I required to provide a reason for my resignation? I was not bound to tell you anything, but to be transparent, it was to pursue private business, which I did. Not to mention I have a buttload of injuries, as you know, and failed to even suggest I was in no way under any type of investigation or left in any negative terms. I can tell you his internal affairs file contains multiple investigations for allegations of untruthfulness, violations of general proficiency, and abuse of the sheriff's office equipment and vehicles. Yes, yes, yes. Let's discuss, which I already did in my previous very transparent transcripts, but this all supports everything we are asserting is the problem with your agency. 3 times my credibility was questioned internally, not by the public. So here goes. Number one, yes, I became very upset. The same night one of our deputies, David Abella, was killed in an on-duty crash, April 21st, 2004. Like most, I was upset. More so to the soon after, an incompetent corporal overrode a sergeant and a lieutenant to unnecessary call off pursuit in ideal conditions. Clear roads, dry, nighttime. The subject of that pursuit had just tried to kill Deputy Jay Gurney by intentionally ramming his car and disabling it. That same subject had done the same thing the night prior to FHP trooper, and then the day after that HCSO incident, he was shot by Pinellas County Sheriff's Office after dragging the deputy's vehicle with him in it. Here's an article to refresh your memory. Well, I refer to man shot by deputies gets 50 years, and it's on Tampa Bay Times. So admittedly, as the investigation revealed, I slammed my radio down on the dash, breaking the windshield. Yes, not my proudest moment. I reported the incident to my sergeant, who said, "Don't worry about it. Turn it in and get it fixed." Unfortunately, on my days off, the corporal was bashed online. This sergeant assumed I did the bashing, so she decided I changed my story, which made no sense. I had a ride along in a prisoner. Lessons learned: I took my 15-day suspension for untruthfulness to a supervisor and damaged the sheriff's office equipment. Oh yeah, I had to pay for the windshield. Number 2, I moved on, but soon after we had a retired HCSO corporal, Frank Patch, murder his wife in a mercy killing. I was the one who disarmed and diffused the situation. You failed to mention that, Chad. I also asked for a transfer from the corporal and sergeant, who were none too happy still from the last investigation. Guess what? Transfer denied. So then I was accused of wrongdoing on the crime scene I was controlling, apparently, since that same corporal was managing it. Necessary, since search warrants were delayed. However, my initial allegation of untruthfulness in that was sustained, yet after I paid for transcripts out of my own pocket, which cost me about $1,500, and they actually changed the policy after this, I was found of no wrongdoing, but I did get 1 day off for general proficiency, because yes, I should have known as a senior deputy to control the scene better. Did I mention a corporal was there? Oh yeah. Regardless, I was pushed through multiple specialty squads after this, always handpicked and even on specialty teams as a diver. I made master corporal and had no issues other than a fender bender. I should say, correction, not master corporal, master deputy. Never made corporal, never wanted it, probably wouldn't have made it. As all my documentation shows, I was commended many, many, many times and also passed my background check with FBI for joint work. I testified in hundreds of felony cases, RICO cases, homicides, and more. I was never questioned my credibility. I was a main witness in multiple cases. Come 2016, when your chief deputy had a dispute with our major, she started on her own scrutinizing reports for anything she could find. Lo and behold, no supervisor had told her that I, James, was injured on duty during an arrest, but not by the subject, by another deputy, a corporal with a promotion slot for sergeant who kneed me in the face accidentally. Yeah, I went to the hospital and received stitches and had a boxer's fracture. And we all know what a boxer's fracture is. There's nothing you can do for it anyway. So I ended up in IA again for falsifying report because no x-ray specifically said my cheek was fractured, and it had no bearing on the arrest or prosecution, but I should have not written that my cheek was fractured, apparently. I was facing a harsh penalty. But then, through careful review, you determined the corporal was at fault, or your staff. He was suspended, he was denied promotion and transferred. Once again, I received a day off for general proficiency. That's the coverall, folks, because they'll never let you off scot-free, because I should not have put the description of my injury in my report or affidavit, which I did not write the affidavit. So I got 1 or 2 days off and was transferred from the highly selective Tactical Intelligence Unit Delta to the warrant section. This was actually a blessing in disguise, so thanks, because I was able to spend my time with my daughter and volunteer as a high school coach, and at night by myself, I attended classes and obtained my master's degree, paid for by my post-9/11 GI Bill. I stayed in that position until I retired. Soon after, I was thrown from my deputy horse while being on the mountain. You broke my hand and refractured my hip, and my horse was injured. After realizing that you didn't give 2 horse droppings about me as a deputy or the horse, and after being disgusted with the way you handled the Kelly Garrison murder trial, or murder and some of these other issues I had mentioned earlier, how it was handled. I submitted my resignation, went to personnel and completed my retirement paperwork, which I've shown several times, contrary to this lady's allegation, my neighbor. Nope, I didn't report my hand or pelvis injuries because it didn't matter. But you can certainly see the x-rays if you wish. Goddamn if I was going to report those again. So here's your quote. Chronister's quote continues. Normally, I would not attempt to dignify such outlandish allegations coming from a struggling former employee whose career was fraught with complaints and internal affairs investigations and whose timing seemed suspicious. Despite sensational claims in his correspondence to this office, remains committed to a complete, thorough, fair, and transparent investigation of any misconduct or allegations. Timing. I think you're confused. Your chief deputy's wife opened the door to your internal failings. I just provided information related to all these command staff personnel that you already supported in your own comments. Please explain. Sensationalized. Your own captain of the professional standards section was removed, and by your own, no person under that rank can investigate your colonels, chief deputies, or your own policy, or your newly created undersheriff. So who is doing the impartial investigation, Chad? You? And why do we suddenly need an undersheriff? At this time, 3 employees are the subject of internal affairs investigation in relation to Mr. Robert Rush. The employees are Colonel Christopher Rule, Colonel Michael Hannaford, and Captain Zuli Stearns. As with any internal inquiry, we will follow established procedures to ensure the facts are gathered objectively and appropriate actions are taken based on evidence, not speculation. So, as I provided the governor, do you have these people under investigation? I'm disappointed and frankly embarrassed to even respond to an email that reads more like the rantings of a disgruntled former employee than a credible complaint. I remain committed to the accountability and transparency which includes investigation into employee misconduct. Embarrassed, but not too disappointed or disenfranchised to provide the attached letter that I don't think you meant to be seen, huh? We will address that here and during the pending lawsuit. Rant? Heck, I thought it was a well-written, factual, and concise, and I even used ChatGPT to clean it up. I'm not the best typist, and yeah, I make some typos, but damn. Quote, the integrity of this entire organization depends on confronting issues directly, uncovering truth, and taking appropriate action. Well, we both know based on the issues confronted that this has not occurred. Well, folks, you might want to decide. End of statement. No. It's not your end of statement as provided by you below. This was the email that wasn't supposed to be attached. Thanks, Creator Loafing. We received the following email today about Mr. Stallschmidt. As you are evaluating credibility, bold, we felt it was important to share. So you decide to share a letter from a private citizen about another private citizen. My background has zero to do with the challenges and charges pointed at you. Even if I were sitting in Florida State Prison, my background in questioning the integrity of your office based on founded misconduct has nothing to do with the messenger. Actually, what you did, Chad, was fortify what multiple private citizens complain about daily concerning your internal affairs system and credibility from complaints. Is this how you treat every person who makes an internal affairs complaint? Can a private citizen with a criminal history not be deemed credible to make a complaint about new allegations? How about one of your current deputies? You just proved your implicit bias. But even worse, not only shared a letter from an unvetted source, you supported it without substantiating any of that person's allegation. Suddenly, her credibility is greater than mine? Well, let's check on that. Subject, J.T. Stallschmidt, letter to Governor DeSantis, originally sent via email. Note, you sent this Creative Loafing, Chad, and they printed it in their article. You, Sheriff, using the Sheriff's Office communications, sent this intentional and awful by awful purposes, by your own words, to discredit me. Well, yeah, Chad, and oh yeah, as well as Carol, let's talk about that. A libel, a noun, a handbill especially attacking or defaming someone, a written or oral defamatory statement or representation that conveys an unjustly or unfavorable impression, a statement or representation published with just cause tending to expose another to public contempt, defamation of a person by written or representational means, the publication blasphemous, treasonable, seditious, or obscene writings or pictures. The letter you shared via email, Chad, from Carol M. That's Carol M. My wonderful neighbor, also a staunch Democrat who publicly despises Republicans, just an FYI. This is a nonpartisan thing because this guy claims to be a Republican. This guy is a Republican. That's me, not really Chuck. But, this is not about the political affiliation. But, dear Sheriff Chronister Chatty boy, you probably should have done a fair and impartial investigation on this lady. Just saying.
On a receipt of copy of a letter from James Stossman to Governor DeSantis regarding your command staff, dated October 6, 25, see attached. You recall my family's ongoing extreme harassment by the same former deputy and his subsequent removal from HCSO.
Chad, can you confirm that? Because your letter, an earlier statement, contradicts this, yet you shared this letter. His own personnel file was sent anonymously to me after his resignation. Well, how could my personnel record be sent to her personally? Oh yes, that's a felony in the state of Florida. By the way, who is safeguarding all your employees' information? And where was the record request? So who has my information out there, Chad? Because you're supposed to notify me.
His history with the department is nothing to sweep under the rug.
Well, I didn't sweep anything. I actually shared my history as I did with all my accolades in the military, my security clearances, my education, and my history with the sheriff's office. Not to mention my continued public service. But hey, Carol, guess what? You didn't read that, huh? And oh yeah, the governor, lieutenant governor, director of ICE, Chad Lyons, my former military partner, former U.S. attorneys, statewide prosecutors, FBI, DEA, and ATF agents, a few U.S. marshals, and probably thousands of police officers can support my background. Hey, Carol, do a side-by-side comparison with me and let the public know your little knitting club decide who's a decent person who's dedicated their life to public service and who just wants to get mad and throw poop.
I'm confounded as to how he has the sheer stupidity to draw attention to himself on this topic.
Draw attention from who? You, Carol? What's going to happen? Are you going to create Facebook profiles that are fake and talk bad about me? Or give me the finger every day when you pass me? Leaving my house? But then again, this isn't really about you. I just wanted to respond in a funny way and show the idiocy here from this guy. Oh, stand. Per his personnel file, he literally let a woman die by refusing to let EMS treat her 3 times. Chad, did I do this? You shared this letter, so you're obviously crediting this accusation. Your own words, remember, evaluating his credibility. Well, damn, you should probably call a state attorney to charge me for this, as murder has no statute of limitations.
He destroyed HSO property on purpose on more than one occasion.
Chad, did I do this on more than one occasion? I don't recall, but I admitted to damaging my vehicle and smashing my windshield. But hey, you posted this letter. Oh yeah, remember when you, Mr. SWAT, had an office pop or an accidental discharge in the sheriff's office operations center? Oh yeah, that was you and Christian Poor did that. That was pretty funny.
He lost his badge and his service weapon.
I lost my badge and service weapon? Chad, did I? You posted this letter. Oh yeah, I think NCIC records would show the history of my lost service weapon. Did you guys ever find it, or was it thrown away with your IA files? Just asking.
He was caught lying and falsifying reports to cover himself.
Not caught, Chad. investigate. As I explained in detail above for all to see, you posted this letter and the charges, but not the outcomes. And I admitted to my cases and explained them, so there's that.
That he was hanging out and cavorting with convicted felons and drug dealers in our neighborhood daily, encouraged them to further his agendas in retaliation against us and any HCSO employee who wasn't Team JT.
That's interesting. Can you name the convicted felons I hung out with? You might want to look up the arrest of some drug dealers I made right in front of your house, Curl. Not related to you, but I think my history of record arrests and cases speak for itself. Oh, and Chad and yourself like to hang out and cavort with convicted felons. We know that. Just ask your brother-in-law, Carol. We'll get to that. And what about your background, Chad? Now, Carol, did you mention that felon is your cousin, that you've sued him multiple times and sent multiple emails on record attacking his business to the county commissioners? Oh, yes. And he has a non-disparagement legal ruling against you, right? I could go on. So can the whole neighborhood, Big Carol.
This man held a bonfire. Klan type.
Remember when you said I was in the Klan, Carol? Haha. And then I proudly supported a black candidate and put his name everywhere, and you stopped my best friend, a black Marine, when you thought it was me. That was pretty funny. Even my minority wife got a chuckle.
He put this in front of my mother's home, and placed a sign across from her house encouraging further harassment, all because he went against HCSO policy and got deeply involved in neighborhood organizations and groups. He served on their boards and offered legal advice in public gatherings in his capacity as a deputy.
Well, thanks for giving me some credit as being a squared away dude as far as good information, but that didn't happen. Did I do all these things, Chad? You posted this letter. You have my file. Oh, Carol, you mean I was a volunteer member of a civic board that's unlawful or against policy? You better tell Chad and Tommy St. John this, as they sit on multiple boards as volunteers. Can you explain what legal advice I gave and to whom? Hope you can find that for your deposition. But wait, folks, it gets better. I told all the board members that a documented gang member, documented by the state of Florida and on felony probation for grand theft, was attending the civic board meetings solely for the disruption, which she did. And oh yeah, guess what, Carol? That's all public record and available on FDOC websites, just like your family members and maybe you. Now, let's talk about the sign. You mean the sign that had a picture of your brother-in-law, who was just released from prison for hundreds of counts of possession of child pornography. Uh-oh. And he's on federal parole for life, and you allowed him to move in your house? Don't worry, I'll put in this write-up, and I did attach it, folks, in the write-up back to the sheriff. Oh yeah, and you forgot to mention that we live in a rural area with no streetlights, and the bus stop is in front of your house. Oh yeah, and we're surrounded by equestrian lesson programs with kids. I think you forgot to add that, and the fact that all the neighbors came to me and asked me to try to do something, and there's nothing I could do about it. And Chatty boy, you and your conscripts failed to look into the call history from this address of her. This would have been a big help for you, buddy. I think you're going to say, damn. So, David Livy, sex offense, federal, parole, depictions of minor engaging in sexual explicit contact, resides at 8516 Tyler Road. At that time, before they built the house that was split from her mom's property, he lived at this address with her and with her mother.
Apparently, he was told by his command staff to stop, and he wrongly blamed my mother for his dressing down. That's all it took for him to harass an 84-year-old widow into being afraid to even go outside her home of over 60 years.
I harassed your mother? When? How? Afraid of me? Oh yeah, Carol. Did you tell Chad, or should I remind him? that you weren't supposed to have firearms in your home because of the convicted felon living with you, and you did not surrender them. Did Chad not get reminded that you discharged the firearm? Uh-oh. And were Baker acted, and your home was subject to a red flag or risk protection order? A judicial warrant to retrieve all the guns? Maybe we forgot about that, huh? Oh yeah, Carol. Do we want to bring up your domestic violence arrest, or should I leave that out?
Leave that out, please. My family and I want you to know we appreciate you rooting out the bad apples like him and others. We know that they can slip through the cracks after 18 years like he did under previous sheriffs. Once you got elected, you saw problem officers like him and rightfully took action to rectify a problem employee.
Chad, did you kick me out? Because I have your name on my credentials. I was given retirement cards for Leosa. And was that by mistake? I mean, you shared this letter, so you're kind of saying what she's saying here.
It's unfortunate that so many staff are enlisted of late, but we see you being proactive in doing this right thing as a sheriff to investigate and follow through with appropriate actions.
Chad, please do what she asks. Ha! At least we agree with that. But then again, you would need to resign if you followed through with appropriate actions.
I'm copying Governor DeSantis' office so he may have further context that this disgruntled former employee is strictly motivated by his own retaliation. He was allowed to resign instead of being terminated in face of his own investigation.
Can you explain what I was being investigated for, Chad? You did share and confirm this letter. I don't recall being under investigation, nor does the Florida retirement system. I have my copies, my green separation form, and retirement date. Can you explain to the readers and Big Carol what this is?
He forgot to include the fact in his assessment of your office he should have been fired, put on the Brady list, and decommissioned over his repeated lies. But you were gracious to him and allowed him to resign, not retire like he tells everyone.
Thanks, Chad, for your graciousness at not decommissioning me. Or did you not tell me? And thanks for allowing me to resign and not retire. I don't know why you would support this stupid letter, but we both know that's not true.
He is a blight on current and former LEOs. Thank you always for being attentive and keeping this big county safe. Imagine doing all this on horseback in 1885 when this county included Polk, Pasco, Pinellas, and Manitou too, like my great-grandfather James P. Martin did. I speak for the family when I tell you we are all proud of all the sheriff in his office. You do the right thing in the face of many critics. I hope Governor DeSantis does not take my opinion, which is why we sent him facts and obtainable documentable facts, not what you shared in response with this news article. Thank you for keeping this county safe and for always being a sheriff we need.
Thanks, Chad, for proving all our points and allowing your ego to take over as we suspected and failing to actually address the issues.
Best regards, Carol Martin Mackerlos. Out.